at least if you get people going in that direction, then, they can't turn around and say, okay, this is just hoodoo. The thing is, go take a look yourself. If you're that concerned, go do it, as I did and others have.
Yes.
But, I mean, they've got to take a look and say, look, I mean, you're not the one who has concocted this stuff. You're a conduit through which information passes, and it's going to be all lost in time.
Right.
All right.
Now, he puts in here on different pages. I'm going to read you one. Page 93, footnote 76. A way to attack those in government. The terms of their master's contract, assuming you use the argument of the people of America, which is the Constitution and laws thereof, we have a personam action that are bound by the Constitution by oath. They are, not you. And if no oath in fact, they are liable for fraud by omission and impersonation of an officer under the Constitution. The Constitution is a contract made on land, not by you, by the states. That's why Paddleford and Ford versus the city mayor of Savannah, Georgia, the Supreme Court said that no private man can complain of a breach of contract because he is not a party to the Constitution.
But it doesn't only say that there, and that's why when I go back and forth with people, I give them that and Barron. It's how much do you want to go into this? The point is, here is a statement. It isn't just a court's whim.
Right.
This is the way things are,
yeah.
And everybody overlooks it. And the thing is, don't you understand? Okay, now this is
they don't understand it because they don't have the education to understand something at a 15 to 18-year grade level. Most people in American today, by the Writers Guild, and I have a woman who is going over this book, and she is a teacher of English of adults in remedial training, and she is writing a book herself. And I told her, I said, this has got to be written at a 4th grade level because that's all people understand today. And she said, tell me about it. She says, I was shocked when I started teaching adults that they could not understand 8th grade level reading.
All right, but there's another thing also afoot here, and that is there are people who...
They can read it, but they can't comprehend what the words are telling them.
Well, okay, now, let me just do a little pontification here, and I want to get out of here as fast as possible because it's not about me. But here's 2 things that are going on here. We have a Patriot community, which I think we would consider ourselves part of, or alternative news. That's fine. But within that group, the ones who supposedly get it are clinging, and this is the reason why we do these shows, to the fact that the Constitution is going to be reinforced, we're going to get it back, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, the whole deal has been skewed against us from day one. Now, be that as it may, I think what you're dealing with more than a low reading level is cognitive dissonance.
Right.
And let's face it, and I can understand it. God, I can understand it.
I couldn't believe it. I was reading, and I had no one to help me. I couldn't believe that I was a non-resident alien in tax law. Non-resident alien to me was something so foreign that I'm not from another foreign country and all this, No, it's not. It's terms. It's not words that you think. And I was thinking that I was just like the people today. I had to learn, but I had to learn by myself. I was self-taught in this. I had a good education, back in the 30s and 40s and 50s. Nothing like today.
But back it up a bit. And you were a victim of this, and I was too. We were very happy children.
Yeah.
But the thing is, then you, somewhere along the line, you have to get the nudge that things are not the way they told us.
Right.
And we're not unhappy American citizens. We're glad to live here. You got to live someplace.
Oh, yeah.
But the problem is that we've been told that we are the shining star with this, and we're all that. And now we look at each other going, why is everybody hating us and such? And the other thing is, people, and of course the Patriot community is asking, left and right now, I would like to direct the rest of the time we have together with the fact that they're going, they can't figure out why the supposed constitutional protections are being revoked or not enforced. And my point to them all is because we never had them. No. You can't have something you never had.
That's right. And the fact we're under conquest since 1861, when Lincoln instituted himself 12 Stat 319 and told Congress to institute it, just like Roosevelt was told by the Federal Reserve when they wrote the, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, it sounded like it was quiet.
Oh, no, I'm listening.
Roosevelt, the Federal Reserve wrote the Trading with the Enemy Act Amendment to the Real Trading of the Enemy Act in 1917 and presented it to Hoover at 1 o'clock in the morning on the 20, I can't remember what day it was. It was in March. And he says, no, it's unconstitutional because the Federal Reserve wrote it now, and they made the American people the enemy of the banking cartel. Not the enemy of the state. It was already the enemy of the state. Schroeder did a good work, but he said that's when we was made the enemy. No, we're made the enemy in 12 Stat 319. We're now made the enemy of the banking cartel to protect them for the run on the banks.
All right, so how many enemies do we face? The banking and the government institutions?
Yeah, in other words, we're the enemy of the state under 12 Stat 319, which was never repealed. You can find it in War Powers when you go to Title 50. When you go to Title 28, look under Section 2461 to 2465. That's when the IRS seizes property and takes estates and all this. And if you go back and search the originating statute, it will tell you 12 Stat 319, 1862.
All right. Now this is all stats, but what umbrella is this under? U.S. Code?
Oh yeah, because you go by the statutes at large, and you have to read the statutes at large. All U.S. codes delete the trivia that they don't want you to know, and that's why you have to go to the statutes at large and argue statutes at large, not the U.S. Code. Never argue U.S. Code, always statutes at large. Because if you go to the statutes at large and look at 28 USC 2465 or 2462, it'll tell you at the end that this action must be made as near as admiralty as possible. But when you go to the statutes at large, it tells you it's admiralty, maritime jurisdiction under tax law. Pure and simple.
So what they did was they took admiralty and were maritime and they brought it landside.
Oh yeah, that was always done, and that's where you would find in Benedict on admiralty and most of the others, and in various cases like the Jackson and all them, that you will find in American Maritime Code or the Federal Rules of Decision. You will not find this in your standard law dictionaries or your standard cases that you can pull up on the internet. And it will tell you that since time immemorial of this country, all revenue cases are maritime jurisdiction under admiralty law. It had to be. It's the law of Hammurabi, 1600 B.C.
Yeah, but you bring that up. So, but I mean, take it to the present. The point is, we're all still slaves.
To the British Crown. Yeah.
I mean, no matter who's running the show, we are still in tow to something.
Oh yeah.
And that's why admiralty. I mean, the thing we laughed about is because in the beginning, we saw some people who wrote stuff who probably weren't that versed on it, talking about gold fringe flags and how this was nasty, and then it went back and forth. But in the end, despite all that, I took a look and I'm going, this stuff is all over the place, and it isn't just a decision because of a more, shall we say, decorous flag.
Right. They're
telling you something.
Well, yeah, because what it is that gold fringe flag is a commander-in-chief of the United States. Anytime you see the gold fringe flag flying in a court, it means that is under war powers, under the control of the President of the United States, and all courts must abide by the rule of conquest that the President has decreed in 1862. Lincoln. We're all under conquest by the war powers that was first installed by Washington, then brought in by Lincoln, and finally by FDR, and every president since then has passed off on it as if it's still viable, and which it is, because the war was never declared over.
Well, okay.
The Civil War.
All right, let me do this also, and we'll finish up with a kind of a lightning round, where I'm not going to ask you at a disadvantage to say things, but just so that people understand where it's at. A lot of questions that just need to have an answer.
This will generate more questions.
Yeah, and and that's okay too. I mean, but that's why you're in this business, I guess.
Yeah, but like I say, go to ATG Press and read a lot of the stuff in the former. I get many people that write to me and says, "Where can I find this and where can I find that?" I says, "Did you try ATG Press yet?"
No.
No. Well. All right. That answered their question. I didn't have to go and explain to them in an email. And I said, if you want to know everything else, go to James Montgomery, Knowledge of Freedom. Go scroll down to his 25 answers to the questions that he got, and that will lay it out in spades to anybody. And it's so clear that even at a fourth grade reading level, I think they could understand it.
No, they can. No, they can. And the people who listen to the show will know.
Yeah, they have to read it. But the average man on the street, really, not the Patriots, I'm talking the man on the street.
No, no chance.
The Patriots have to get rid of the myth that they have been under for centuries. And until they get rid of the myth that the Constitution is some wonderful document and yada, 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 and we need to reinstate our Constitution. No, you don't need to reinstate the Constitution because you're reinstating the subjection of the British Crown upon everybody if you do that. That's all it is. You're just taking that corporation and reinforcing the corporation's bylaws that only apply, if written and as written, to those not of our ilk, but to those that operate the system. It's their bylaws. We didn't have anything to do with it. We never signed it. It's a contract. Under Admiralty law, the premise of the Admiralty to seize the ship and the captain is that they seize the ship, not the corporation that owns the ship, but they seize the ship, and then the captain comes in to defend the ship. That's the personam jurisdiction. Bang, they got you. You come in and argue the contract on Internal Revenue, you come in, bang, they got you because you are the ship of the captain and you're sunk.
All right. Well, we get a lot of things to go through, and I will say, by all means, don't feel obliged to go deeply into this because I'm doing this deliberately to just get some kind of feel on what's going on. Okay. And folks can either email you or go to ATG Press or buy the books. I mean, let's be fair about this, but I mean, just to pique some interest, and also not to do it, necessarily so.
Yeah.
Not to do this to bring this kind of attention to us. But let's face it. I mean, you've done the work. I mean, we do things. We are not commercial in our enterprise, but in a way also. I mean, come on, folks, give us a break. I won't say anything more about it. Now, here's where we're going to go with this. The Constitution.
Let me read you one thing before.
Sure.
This is from George Washington, May 1775. Exact quote from Washington. If you ever hear of me joining in any such measure as separation from Great Britain, you have my leave to set me down for everything wicked. He also said, it is not wish or interest of the government, that means Massachusetts, or any other upon this continent, separately or collectively, to set up for independence, end of quote. And you know where you can get that? Ingersoll's North American Law Review, number 2, August 1892, page 183. And it's also quoted in the Sources of the Constitution of the United States by Ellis Stevens, 1927, page 36.
All right, let me do this. The Constitution, the Founding Fathers are long since dead. Who does it protect now?
Only those in power like Bush, the congressmen, and the senators, and the upper echelon who never go to jail.
Those who reside and preside in the District of Columbia.
That's right.
All right. Now, when you look at the amendments, and a lot of the amendments look like they're
the Writers Guild, and I have a woman who is going over this book, and she is a teacher of English of adults in remedial training, and she is writing a book herself. And I told her, I said, you know, this has got to be written at a 4th grade level because that's all people understand today. And she said, tell me about it. She says, I was shocked when I started teaching adults that they could not understand an impersonation of an officer under the Constitution. The Constitution is a contract made on land, not by you, by the states. That's why Paddleford and Ford versus the city mayor of Savannah, Georgia, the Supreme Court said that no private man can complain of a breach of contract because he is not a party to the Constitution.
But it doesn't only say that there, and that's why when I go back and forth with people, I give them that and Barron. It's how much do you want to go into this? The point is, here is a statement. It isn't just a court's whim.
Right.
This is the way things are,
yeah.
And everybody overlooks it. And the thing is, don't you understand? Okay, now this is...
No, they don't understand it because they don't have the education to understand something at a 15 to 18-year grade level. Most people in American today...
At least if you get people going in that direction,
yeah.
then, you know, they can't turn around and say, okay, this is just hoodoo. The thing is, go take a look yourself. If you're that concerned, go do it, as I did and others have.
Yes.
But, I mean, they've got to take a look and say, look, I mean, you're not the one who has concocted this stuff. You're a conduit through which information passes, and it's going to be all lost in time.
Right.
All right.
Now, he puts in here on different pages. I'm going to read you one. Page 93, footnote 76. A way to attack those in government. The terms of their master's contract, assuming you use the argument of the people of America, which is the Constitution and laws thereof, we have a personam action that are bound by the Constitution by oath. They are, not you. And if no oath in fact, they are liable for fraud by omission